In 1847, there was a king, Vinay Bidappa, who had a large kingdom, a lovely wife, Pragathi Rishabh and a child, but he couldn't find serenity. He embarks on a trip to find true happiness and comes across a stone in a forest inhabited by Panjurli Deva, a deity that protects the forest's residents. In exchange for obtaining the stone, he donates enormous amounts of his land to the locals. Panjurli cautions the king that if his family and successors do not honor their word and do not retake the country, Panjurli's companion, the savage Giliga Deva, would be furious. In 1970, the king's successor requests that a Buddha Kola performer possessed by Panjurli force the locals to hand up the land to him, which the performance refuses, stating that he will die vomiting blood if he attempts. The heir now lives in the city and is aware that the value of the land has soared several times over. He requires funds in order to recover his lost royal title and lifestyle. The successor questions the performance's possession by Panjurli, to which the performer responds that if possessed, he would vanish, after which he runs into the forest and is never seen again. As predicted, the king's successor dies mysteriously, vomiting blood on the steps of the court, where he was to defend the land issue. Murali, Kishore, a forest officer, is assigned the duty of transforming the villagers' land into a forest reserve in 1990. Shiva, Rishabh Shetty, a Kambala athlete from the Kadubeta hamlet and the lost performer's son, challenges him. Devendra Saturu, Achyuth Kumar, the king's successor in the present, is Shiva's patron and the village's landlord. Despite being repeatedly asked to do the Buddha Kola, Shiva refuses owing to the trauma of his father's abduction. Satu's personal assistant is Sudhakar, Pramod Shetty. Sudhakar had manipulated the Kambala buffalo races so that Shiva finished second and Satu's buffaloes finished first. Shiva openly beats Sudhakar and forces Satu to declare him the winner, with a medal and a motorbike as the prize. Shiva's mother is Kamala, Manasi Sudhir. On the forest land, Shiva and his buddies, Lakshu, Ranjan Saju, Rampa, Prakash Thumanad, hunt wild boars, while the villagers gather food for Buddha Kola. Murali is opposed to all of this and wants to fence off the woodland area as soon as possible. Devendra is aware that Murali has been assigned with identifying and enclosing the forest reserve. He wants to befriend Murali, but Murali is not a compromising person. Guruva, Swaraj Shetty, Shiva's cousin, takes his place at the Hoot Kola. Murali and his team begin installing a fence along the designated forest reserve. Shiva falls in love with Leela, Sapthami Goda, and employs her as a forest guard thanks to his ties with Devendra. Leela is equally smitten by Shiva, and the two have intercourse. The villagers attempt to halt the fencing, but the police and forest guards, including Leela, forcefully subdue them, causing a schism between Leela and Shiva despite the fact that she was simply following orders and had no control over the event. Murali wants the people to move their village away from the forest. Meanwhile, Devendra assists in the initiation of a legal defense by assembling all of the locals' property papers to demonstrate that the hamlet is not an infringement on the forest area. Devendra is assisted by his attorney, Naveen D. Patil. Shiva continues to assist Devendra by assisting him in the cutting down of trees within the forest and carrying the wood outside to Devendra's mills. As Murali and Shiva's hatred grows more heated, Murali plans to arrest Shiva and his companions and travels to their hideout with Devendra's henchman Surendran, Deepak Rai Panaji. However, while chopping down a tree, Shiva and his companions mistakenly destroy Murali's jeep and flee, believing they have killed everyone inside. They return to the hamlet a few days later to see their family. Shiva reconciles with Leela and informs her that he will surrender. The next morning, however, they are apprehended by police and forest guards. Guruva requests that Devendra bail Shiva, but Devendra tries to bribe him by pretending that Panjurli has ordered the people to give him their property in the next Buddha Kola. When Garuva refuses, Devendra murders him. After finding that Murali has found out his hidden objective, Devendra intends to use Shiva against him. Murali discovers that Devendra has gotten all of the villagers to transfer their land into his name, and that Devendra is now the one responding to court orders about the village's evacuation. Murali devises a method to proclaim the reserve forest boundaries, rendering all of Devendra's papers null and useless. Shiva contacts Devendra after learning of Garuva's death, who lies about Murali being Garuva's killer. Enraged, Shiva goes to murder Murali, but hears from his blacksmith friend Mahadeva that Devendra killed Garuva himself. Shiva is ambushed by Devendra's thugs, but manages to flee and meet the villagers, whom Murali had informed about Devendra's land takeover. After Shiva exposes that Devendra murdered Garuva, he and Murali reconcile and unite the community. Devendra and his henchmen launch an attack, resulting in a fierce struggle in which numerous villagers are slain. After nearly dying in the fight, Shiva strikes his skull against Panjurli's stone, becomes possessed by the Gyuliga Daiva, and murders Devendra and his henchmen. After the battle, Shiva performs the Buddha Kola, in which he is possessed by Panjurli. He, Murali, and the villagers lock hands in a symbolic gesture, and he then vanishes into the forest after encountering what looks to be his father's spirit. The film concludes with Shiva and Leela's son questioning Sundara about his father's absence, which Sundara recounts.